name is Nicole, and I did a little over a year at Suffolk County House of Correction in Boston, Massachusetts.
So usually when I bring people in here, they had a hard childhood growing up and led them to the streets. You didn't have that, but how was your childhood growing up?
It was great. My parents were both very actively involved in my life. I was a gymnast, I was a cheerleader, I got good grades. My family went on vacation every year. That definitely wasn't part of my background or part of my story. My childhood was great.
All right, so take us to the day you got arrested. What happened? What led to all this?
What? Well, honestly, it's a very complicated story, but I was working at a church and I had borrowed money from a couple of ladies there. A couple of months went by, and I told them I would pay them when I received my tax refund. I still haven't got it to this day. They reported it to the police department as larceny. So I was charged with larceny. I was actually staying at a hotel that day because me and my fiance, and I have at the time she was one, my daughter, were staying at a hotel. We were in the process of moving into a new place, and all of a sudden I hear bang bang bang. I'm like, what is this? And they're like, Nicole, we know you're in there, open up. Like, it was insane. I had no idea they were coming. All of this that had happened was 8 months prior to the actual arrest.
Yeah, that's crazy. When you just told me about that when we were off cam, you know, I couldn't believe it because usually when you loan people money, you got to take it to small claims court. They
Yeah.
usually don't come and arrest you like you stole it. They act
Yeah.
like you went and actually robbed her, or took it from her.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I literally, if like you read the police report, it says right in the police report that the money was borrowed. Like, I didn't, it was sent to me via PayPal from their PayPal that they admitted to sending. So very strange.
Yeah, that's crazy. So before that incident, have you ever been arrested? Did time in jail?
Yeah, a couple months here or there. I So when I was younger, I had back surgery and I was on prescription medication. I got into Suboxone. And basically, like, there was a time where I didn't have my prescription, my insurance ran out. So I was working for a pharmacy at the time and I ended up taking Suboxone from the pharmacy. So I did do a few months for that.
Oh, they actually found out that. How did they find out that you took it?
No idea. Probably the count. Like, they do inventory every once in a while. And I kind of told on myself after. I don't think they had any video evidence of me actually taking it, but they coerced me into admitting it myself.
Yeah, yeah, they're pretty good at the mind games.
Yeah.
So let's go back to when you got arrested for
Mhm.
the robbery, or however you want to call it. What was the charges again?
Larceny.
A larceny. So you're getting arrested. What's going through your mind?
All I could think about was my baby. She was 1 year at the time. And her and I, it was just me and her against the world for a long time. Her father didn't. He was living in San Diego, California when I had her, and he didn't meet her until she was 8 months. So, it was just me and her. I just missed. All I could think about was my daughter.
What kind of things did you see down there?
In processing at the jail, I
Yeah,
mean,
the process, the whole
a
when you
lot
went through
of
it.
a lot of people that were sick and coming off of drugs and throwing up and angry and just a mess. Everything was just a mess, and I was like, the reality set in. Like, wow, like, this is my life right now. I hadn't got 2 years when I hadn't been sentenced when I first got there. I was held, pending trial. I never expected to get the time I got for the charge that I had, but
What is different from a woman's jail and a man's jail? Do you think?
um, women are more catty, and men, when men are in an environment like that, they tend to like stick together and like to get things done. They don't just, it's not so women are more like for themselves, but men are like they just congregate and they say, okay, we're going to get this done, we're going to, we want to make sure that we get outside time, so we're going to make sure that we get that. Women will all just go behind each other's backs talking about each other, and they'll never, they don't come together. Men seem to get a lot more freedom as than women do. It wasn't an all women's prison, it was just a it was a co-ed prison, but we obviously don't see the men. Yeah, I think that it was a lot of things that weren't right. I think that the detective was in cahoots with the judge. The judge was the judge actually that sentenced me. He recently just got arrested himself for beating up his wife, and everyone knows that he's crooked, and you know he does things like this.
Yeah.
He doesn't like women. He doesn't like people that have used drugs in the past. He's just an awful person.
You finally got into the back in the pod. How was your celly like? Were you in a pod or a cell?
Yeah. So you
Like
start off at
dorm?
the medical unit at first for like a couple days, and then you move to general population. Um, it was a lot smaller than I would have thought. I was in the county jail. There's no movement. It's literally like a pod, and you're stuck in that one unit unless you're going outside or to the library. I worked in the kitchen, thank God. So that was a time to get away from the pod, but it was just small, and yeah, I couldn't like believe that I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough we have tablets in there. I don't know if a lot of jails do now, but yeah, we actually like the jail gives you a tablet and earphones when you get in there, and you can make phone calls from your cell, you can watch movies, play games, write text messages. Like, I couldn't believe
Yeah.
that, but
It's different for every jail. Like the jail I was at, they had um they had like 5 tablets and we had to share it with like 80 people, you know. But when I
oh,
got to prison, everybody got their own tablet. So,
yeah.
so did you have everybody had their own tablet? It was
Hmm.
like that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's something different.
I've seen fights, I've seen COs and inmates hooking up. I've seen I'm sleeping next to somebody at like, well, in the jail cell, and there was this disgusting girl like masturbating.
What
Just all kinds of crazy stuff. Like oh God, I can't even remember half of it.
what about the you said something about a CEO and the inmate hooking up. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah,
Is there any more to the story?
oh yeah, it's all over the news. It's happened several times, and the guy got walked off. He ended up getting found out. Like he every night at lockdown, he would they had like these rooms off the pod where like the CO could like go and just like hang out. Um, but yeah, he ended up getting caught, and the girl would just like he'd keep the girl out of her cell, and they'd go in the back and do whatever. And there's actually a few of them that I've known about that this happened to. One of the COs got walked off for selling crystal meth in the jail. One of the COs got caught for like PUA money. Like these people like got arrested like on shift. Like
Did you ever witness any fights?
oh yeah, all the time. I mean, women fight a lot, believe it or not. I mean, when I first got in there, like when I like 2 seconds after I entered the pod, I saw some girl's face get smashed in with with another girl's foot. It was crazy. Um, I've seen people fight over the stupidest shit.
Yeah, I interviewed another female a long time ago, a couple months ago, and she said, fights rarely happen it's like more of like relationships.
Yeah,
Women
that
be
too.
dating each other.
Yeah, that
She
too.
said it's not like the men's though.
No.
Men they get like debts, all kinds of stuff, gangs.
Hmm.
Were there any gangs there?
I mean, there were some people that said they were in gangs, but who knows? Who knows
Yeah.
if it's real?
Were you in any altercation?
The only altercation I had was with a lunatic cellmate who I was sleeping and was standing over me when I was sleeping and just like staring at me, and it was weird. So I basically told her to get the fuck out. I'm gonna.
Yeah, that part right there. Yeah, I've had experiences with that. I ain't gonna
So
lie.
yeah,
And that's still I still deal with that today. I don't like people sleeping like when I'm sleeping, I can't have anybody standing above me, man. That's crazy.
yeah, it was bizarre.
Did you ever see somebody completely lose control emotionally?
Yeah, it was a very emotional place. Women are emotional to begin with, but their kids are out of the equation. Everyone was very emotional. It was sad. It's a sad place to be. It's a sad environment. The energy in there is just sad and awful because most of the women, have children and they're unable to see them.
Yeah. Is it that part being away from your family, your kids, and for a mom, that's big. And
Yep.
stories like this, I like to put out there just to show people anybody can get arrested. You never know. Usually you
Yeah.
don't hear about people getting arrested from borrowing money. You never hear about that stuff. I mean, we all borrow money, but here's a case right here.
Yeah.
Was there a moment where you felt unsafe in there?
No, I can pretty much get along with anyone. It's not really like that as far as like nothing's going to happen to you sexually that you don't want to happen. Nothing's going to like no one's going to beat you up unless you give them a reason to. Um so
What
I've
do
been
you?
locked up, I promise. Google my name.
Oh, I ain't gonna lie. You're gonna have a lot of people say a lot of things. You did. You. What do you think people misunderstand about women's incarceration?
Hmm. I think a lot of people think that we have it a lot easier than men in there, and I don't think that that's true. We have a lot more restrictions. We don't have nearly as much programming, and it's, I mean, that would be my answer to that. I just don't think that we have everything that the men do. I mean, we don't. I can tell you that, especially at the jail I was at. There was, the men were outside all the time. They could just come and go as they please. We can't walk around freely. We had to have an escort walk us anywhere.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I'm guilty of thinking that the same way. And it really depends on what jail and prison you're at. Because I'm
Yeah.
telling you, the men's jail. I mean, you got gangs in there, and
Yeah.
sometimes like you might not even be doing nothing. Like you might come in there just because you look soft or weak, and you getting a little bit of money. And people see that you get targeted.
Right.
Like it's crazy in there for some people.
Yeah.
That's for some people. But you're right though. It's basically the same thing. If you take away the gangs and stuff, it's pretty much the same thing.
Mhm.
Oh, that was my next question too. Do you think women's jail are easier than men's jail? Well, I guess you answered that. What challenges do women face that men might not?
um I think, women are more vulnerable as far as like getting um into relationships with COs, which can cause them to have to switch to a different jail. I think that the emotionals, men aren't really as emotional as women, and uh, maybe can like hold it together better. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. When you were in there, did you have people there for you, like support?
Yeah, I had my fiance and my parents, thankfully.
Yeah, that goes a long way.
Hmm.
For people that don't have that, it can be a really, really tough, rough time. So if you know
Yeah,
somebody that's incarcerated, please be there for them because it can.
absolutely.
Make or break their time, you know.
Yep.
What did
Yep.
you miss the most?
My baby. Like even talking about it was awful. Like I missed everything about her. I thought she was gonna forget me and not know who I was when I got out. I missed her. I missed her. I missed my freedom. I mean, obviously I missed my family, but I missed her.
Yeah, you said something about you working in the kitchen.
hmm
What kind of things did you do in the kitchen?
I actually had probably the best job in the jail. I served the COs. So basically, like I was in their cafeteria and they had like a menu every day and I would cook for them and serve them. But I say it was the best part of the kitchen because I mean the best part job in the jail because I could eat whatever I wanted to. There wasn't like I didn't have to eat the slop off the trays. I could eat what they're eating. So real meat and like I was eating all kinds of stuff, omelets, desserts, whatever.
Yeah, I know when I was in jail prison, if a guy got a job like that, they would usually sneak back food and
Yeah,
sell
we
it on the
always
tier.
do. They let
Y'all
us.
did
They
that
let
too?
us take back a meal, but yeah, I never sold it. I was always just eating it.
Oh, you kept it for yourself.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, I shared it.
yeah, did you get paid for doing that job?
Yep. $2 a day.
That's crazy. $2 a day. That's actually a lot for
Yeah,
like
I know.
jail
It's
wise.
not bad. Yeah.
two
Yep.
dollars a day. I mean, when I was in prison, we got my state check was like $20 a month.
Wow. Yeah, mine was
Yeah.
120.
Did time move slower or faster near the end of your sentence?
Slower. Way slower. I I had a lot of issues because I had a warrant out of a different state. So I would have gotten out way before I actually did. On we have community supervision out of Massachusetts. Basically, like like you go home on a bracelet, and the deputies can come and check your house, check where you are, or give you a drug test at any time. But I wasn't like I said, I had a warrant in Rhode Island for a rental car that I returned too late, and I returned it well a lot too late, and they ended up I got a charge of receiving stolen property or something stupid like that. I don't know, whatever. So I had to be extradited before I could leave. So when I did get parole, I paroled to the warrant. So the US Marshals came and got me, drove me to Rhode Island. I spent the night, saw the judge in the morning, and then was released.
Somebody wants to know what state you did your time. What state were you in?
Massachusetts.
Yeah, she was in Massachusetts. Um, since getting out, when you got released, what kind of good things and bad things have you taken away from being locked up?
Um, I mean, it's good to have your freedom back and be part of my daughter's life. I'm still on parole for another until June 30th, thank God. So I have, I've had that hanging over my head. I mean, I can't complain once you've done that. I mean, I know a year isn't a lot compared to what other people do for a lot worse. I mean, it sucks like when people go to jail and they shouldn't be there. And there's plenty of people that happens to, but I'm just thankful about of my freedom, honestly.
If a teenager watching this is heading down the same road, what would you tell them?
I would tell any teenager to keep going to school, go to college, get a degree, and keep your nose clean. Just
Don't borrow money.
yeah, don't borrow money. I mean, I'm not like I can't sit here and say that I've never done anything wrong. Like I told you, like I had
Yeah.
been to jail before, and at that point I did deserve to be there. I really did. But after I had my daughter, I kind of it was time to grow up and do things the right way instead of my crimes have always been related to money. So that was one of the things that when the DA had saw my record, which is very big because like I've done a lot of I've had a lot of larceny charges. So now here comes somebody that it borrowed money. But I did it's very complicated, but
Yeah. Tim, I know you came in late. She got locked up because for larceny. She borrowed money from a friend when she was at church. A friend of hers. She said she was gonna pay it back when she got her taxes. Her taxes never came. She couldn't pay it back. Somehow the cops ended up at her motel and locked her up because of the borrowed money. Usually it's weird because, usually when stuff like that happen, they send it to small claims court. You go through that process, but they skipped all that. They act like she went and robbed this lady or something, and they took away from her family for a whole year. So this is why I like to get the story out there because y- like she wasn't like you said you've been in jail a couple of times, but you weren't running in the streets. You weren't in
no.
any gang or nothing like that.
Mm-mm.
So I mean, it can happen to anybody.
Mhm.
Misunderstandings. You also
Yeah.
said that lady, you think her and the detective has something going on, right?
Yeah, I feel like she had to have some sort of in with the police station or the detective. Otherwise, like, I just don't see like the police taking that as seriously as they did. And I want to know what prompted them to come and arrest me 8 months after this happened. Like, it wasn't like I borrowed the money and then they went and told the police. Um, the only thing I can think of is the day before I got arrested, I had called the church because I was using them as a reference, and they were like telling like these references all this stuff about me that wasn't true, and I just called the church and I said, please stop slandering me and like saying these things. My employer doesn't need to know whether or not I borrowed money from you and didn't pay you back. Like, they're asking about my work ethic. Um, and the next day I get arrested. So it was just bizarre. It was like eight
Yeah,
and a half months after I had borrowed the money. Any any criminal act that you do is going to follow you for the rest of your life, and people need to realize that. Like, I'm a convicted felon and I have a really hard time getting a job. I can't, you know, to my daughter's school on a field trip and chaperone. I can't do stuff like that because I'm a felon.
yeah, that's crazy. You can't do a lot of things where you're felon. You can't vote. You can't vote for the
Yeah,
next president. You
right.
can't. What's something else you can't do? You can't go visit somebody in prison or jail. I don't think you can
Right.
when you're a
Yeah,
felon.
it depends. Yeah, depends.
Yeah, you can't do a lot of things though. I know you can't vote.
Mhm. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking that lady you borrowed the money from, I'm thinking she called them and told them, yeah, she robbed me. She
Yeah.
had to say something like that.
I don't know. Even the police, like I said, the police report says, quotation marks, I sent the money to her via PayPal. So it's like I don't understand any of it. I hired an attorney and they're gonna get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, well, we hope you get some justice and hope, everything works out for you because, a lot of things don't seem right with that case, with the judge getting arrested and being corrupt, like you said,
Mhm.
maybe the lawyer find all that stuff out. But yeah,
Right.
I'm glad you could come on here and tell us about I know this interview ain't been that long, but it was just one case.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
But anyway, yeah, I hope you get justice for your case or whatever. I thank you for coming on here and sharing your story
Thank you. Well, thanks.
with somebody else that did like 25 years in prison. So I'm gonna try to get in touch with him and see if he's trying to get on here. But yeah, thank y'all for coming.